Hi everyone. As Mel said, I'm Megan, and I'm just going to jump straight into it because my first talking point is a bit of a get to know me. I'm then going to be talking about my lived experience in the world of work, what job matching and job carving is, how employers can create supportive workspaces, and then, as Mel said, we've got time at the end for a bit of a Q&A. So, an introduction to me. Everybody meet baby Megan. This was 28 years ago, and my hobbies include gaming and D&D, video games. I'm a bit of a theatre nerd. I also quite like sewing and fashion and art and craft. I quite enjoy sort of artsy, crafty things. This is my fiance Kieran. We've been engaged for about 4 years now, and he helps me with a lot of my support needs outside of work. Speaking of work, this is the Durham Enable lot, and I've worked here, I think, coming up to my 4th year now. And outside of work, I also have a little bit of a side business with Kieran and our friends where we're making our own tabletop role-playing game like D&D called Godhood. So I do have some diagnoses and some sort of challenges within work, and I'm going to talk a bit about what they are and how they affect me in work. So I have OCD, which means I need to sanitize a lot. I struggle with touching things that other people have touched. So things like handing over paperwork, etc., is a bit of a struggle for me. I also tend to damage equipment just because of how harsh the sanitizer is. I'm not sure if you can see it, but you can see the sort of missing patches on my mouse there. I'm also autistic, which means I need a little bit of extra time preparing for and decompressing before and after work. I struggle with conflict, and that's not sort of like arguing with your co-workers, because I hope I don't do that. I don't think I do that. But the things that you might not perceive as conflict, I struggle with. So things like maybe reminding someone to do a piece of paperwork, etc. That kind of feels a bit combative to me. Masking and the exhaustion that comes with that. So masking is a thing that a lot of autistic people do to sort of act in a neurotypical way, whether it's knowingly or unknowingly, to try and sort of blend into society. And that comes with a lot of imposter syndrome, which is where, or at least I personally swing wildly between, I'm good at my job, I'm good at what I do, I know what I'm talking about it and I'm worthy enough to have this job. And then swinging wildly the other way of, I'm not disabled enough, I'm faking it, I don't represent the autistic community very well, even this sort of thing we're doing here today, am I doing it right? I also have some physical health issues that stem from some medical things that I had when I was younger, and that means it's quite difficult to balance work life and home life. When I do get ill or injured, I have longer recovery periods, and all of that needs a bit of backwards planning. Like if I walk to the shop to get lunch, am I going to be able to hoover also in the same day? So it's a lot of balancing of my needs. And of course, all of these do interact with each other. So with the OCD and the autism, there's that kind of fear of looking weird, odd, not quite right. Needing to do those sort of repetitive and sort of behavioural rituals to feel right. And again, as I mentioned earlier, sort of the struggles with touching, but compared with the autism, it goes a bit deeper than just the OCD. I can't touch it. Physically, and with the autism, I'm quite clumsy and uncoordinated, clearly. So I can get quite angry and annoyed at my body for not connecting and doing the things that I'm asking it to. And with the OCD and the physical side of things, there's a lot of extra steps which can cause extra pain and sort of extra time doing the things I need to do. Like, you know, for example, if I drop a pen, I then also need to sanitize it because it's touched the floor. But the bending down to pick up the pen hurts, and then the sanitizing might make it slippery. So it falls out of my hand and I do it again, and it kind of all feeds into each other, which unfortunately does lead to a little bit of pain and anxiety. And I just want to point out that it's not all doom and gloom. We will talk about how these things are make me strong in other areas, but I just want to just share some of my challenges first. So I'm going to talk about my lived experience in the world of work. So I want to take you back in time. So this is Megan. She's just got a job in a nursery, and she's really excited to get started because she wants to take after her mum and be a teacher and be that sort of thing. So she started an apprenticeship at a nursery, but she's filling out the sort of initial paperwork, and in comes the dreaded question of, do you consider yourself to have a disability? And at the time, I didn't really know a lot about myself and my needs. I wasn't aware that I was autistic. I knew I had some physical struggles and I knew I had the OCD, but I didn't really understand them or myself in the same way that I do now. I was also worried about being discriminated against, even though I'd got the job. If I said I had a disability, would they think I couldn't do the job? Would they not give me the job? So I actually said no, and I didn't disclose that I had any sort of disability, which was fine for a time. I enjoyed doing the work. I enjoyed playing with and teaching the kids. However, I did notice when I started to do longer shifts, longer hours, to a point where I was doing sort of 40+ hour work weeks, that my back started playing up, and I struggled with changing nappies, both sort of physically and with the OCD of it. And I was quite often just sort of shoved in a back room to change nappy after nappy after nappy, which really was really quite difficult where I was. And I remember a specific incident that was sort of a bit of a catalyst, in that they'd asked me to empty the like full nappy bin at the end of the day, and I was in a really low mental health space that day for whatever reason, and I couldn't do it. I could not do it. So I said to a co-worker of mine, hey, I have OCD, I'm really struggling with this task today, I can't do it. Which, because I'd not disclosed that before, kicked off a meeting with the manager and kind of led to this whole, implosion of difficult times. And these were some of the thoughts I was having at that point. I had my colleagues sort of whispering, saying I was really lazy, I was really exhausted, I was sleeping a lot, I was worried that all of the colleagues hated me. But like I mentioned, that it was an apprenticeship and I hadn't even started the learning side of that. I was worried that if I didn't make my wages, I wouldn't be able to pay my rent. And my biggest worry actually was that they thought that I was really bad at the fundamentals of the job, as in looking after the children, which ironically for me was the easiest part of the job. But unfortunately, all of that led to sort of me crying most mornings and having panic attacks until I was ill. And then obviously I'd phone in and say that I'd been ill, and then when I had been ill. Obviously, I couldn't go back for 48 hours, which led to enough absences for them to give me grounds to fire me. And it took a long time for me to sort of get back on an even keel to even consider working again. But we're going to travel forward in time again, and I've moved from Norwich to Durham, and I've started working at Durham Enable, which is awesome. And I really enjoyed the work. So I started my role at Durham Enable as a job coach assistant, and I was doing initial sort of contact with job seekers, finding out sort of what they were looking for, whether our service was right for them at the right time, kind of thing. And I really enjoyed, connecting with the job seekers. And it was also quite personal because at that point I'd come to the understanding that I was autistic, and it felt like I was giving back because it was a service for me and people like me. So I really enjoyed that part of the work. However, there was a bit of a rift, and I was struggling with some aspects of the job, like phone calls, doing home visits with my OCD was quite a struggle, and I don't drive. So I did have access to work taxis to allow me to get to work, but trying to organise that within home visits and going from place to place on the same day it's not really what taxis do, and that was difficult to organise. So unfortunately, slowly but surely, Vox Megan returns. And I started having all of those same thoughts and feelings again. Sort of, oh no, it's happening again. I'm really exhausted. I'm sleeping a lot. I thought all of the staff hated me, but I really liked them. And that was quite a big one, actually, because not that I didn't like the staff at the nursery, but I really, really get on with the team here at Durham Enable. And I didn't want to lose all of these connections that I'd made to all these people doing great work. And I was sad that they didn't think I could do my job. I couldn't get on with the fact that OCD had ruined another thing in my life that was positive. I was going to have to quit before I was fired again because I couldn't take that mental health strain, and I couldn't afford another huge gap on my CV if I did have another sort of mental health break. So I was going to sort of jump before I was pushed, so to speak. Again, I was really worried that everyone thought I was bad at the fundamentals of the job, which again was one of the things that I found easiest about it. And when I sort of thought about quitting, it was, I've done this work thing quite a few times now, and I've never really found a place where I fit in, even in jobs that I really enjoy, like this one. I'm just not been able to make it work. So really, is there any point to even trying anymore? Can I even work? So these were all the thoughts that I was having, and I was in quite a dark place. However, I would like to introduce you to Ramsey. There he is. He's also in the call, so I'm about to massively embarrass him. But Ramsey was my manager at the time, and he helped me feel not alone, not like I was battling this sort of uphill battle on my own. And we ended up sort of having conversations about me feeling valued for what I could do. So this is him sort of reaching out and me metaphorically taking his hand, which I wouldn't do because of the OCD, of course. But we started having chats about a new role that was available, which is the role that I'm in now. And that presented a genuine business need. And we talked about some of the strengths that I'd shown, like I was always very up to date on my paperwork. I really enjoyed updating all of our spreadsheets. I'd made like a little signposting directory. And yeah, some of the things that I really enjoyed, we sort of said, Ramsey said, how can we incorporate this into a new role for you? He also asked me what support I needed, which was quite scary because no one had really asked me that before and I'd never really thought about it. But the fact that we started those conversations led to what reasonable adjustments that I might need. And we sort of chatted together and worked out what might be helpful, what wouldn't be helpful. And he also came with me to my access to work meetings, helped me with my application and all of that. And this is a really good example of what job carving is, but I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. I just wanted to show you how different everything is now, and some examples of the fantastic work that me and some of the other team do. So I have my foundation certificate in Easy Read. So I'm a qualified Easy Read producer and I'm doing my advanced certification in September. This is an example of some of the mental health and mood self-help guides that we're producing for our job seekers. Me and another neurodivergent colleague of mine, Carol, spoke at the BASE conference, which is the British Association for Supported Employment. Very similar to this, we sort of talked about our lived experience and how even being on the other side of supported employment had helped us. Those are some flashcards that we use. This is a very, very sped up version of a animation that me and the team have made about what it feels like to be neurodivergent. This one is about the sensory horror of socks. And this is an example of our Easy Read version of our vocational profile. So I said I'd talk a bit about job carving and job matching. So matching is the right person to the right job, to the right employer at the right time. So I'd like you to imagine someone who has very heavy sensory sensitivities, especially with touch and with smell. What you're probably not going to think of as the right job match for them is being in a Michelin-starred restaurant, because, you know, it's lots of noise, lots of shouting, lots of smells, lots of textures, lots of lights. However, if that person wants to go into some sort of food / cooking, catering environment, that doesn't mean that they can't. That's where carving comes in. So carving is creating a bespoke role or adapting an existing one to make the task match the person's skills. So what we're looking at with our person who has sensory sensitivities, maybe rather than a Michelin-starred restaurant, we look at a local bakery. Maybe they come in at specific times so that, you know, say after the lunch rush where it's not so busy, maybe they start up their own business and bake from home where they can control their environment. It's all about the genuine business need matched with the adaptations to the environment to make the person thrive. So that's all fantastic, but how do we make that happen? So there are two things that every person wants in work, and that is to be seen and supported. Seen not just in a visual way, but seen in an understanding way. And supported, we need to be supported with things like reasonable adjustments, etc., so that we can continue to work in the way that we need to. And when those things are done, we feel safe. We feel safe enough to disclose. We feel like we're in a safe enough environment. We start making friends and we start feeling like we're fitting in, which all leads to us being successful. Successful. If you want to know a bit more about that, you can check out our YouTube channel for Carol's session on neurodiversity in the workplace, where she goes into depth on this. But I didn't want to leave you with nothing, so these are my personal top 5 tips. The little things really do make a big difference. So one of the ones that really sticks out for me is when I was signing my access to work forms, Ramsey would always bring me an extra pen, so I wasn't using the same pen. And, you know, to Ramsey, what's a pen? You know, and we work at the council, so we're inundated with pens. But to me, that had shown that he'd thought about me before that. He'd made the reasonable adjustment before I'd even asked. And just the care and the forethought itself to do that was really impactful. If you're not sure what someone's needs are or where to start, ask them. They might not know what's available, but they're an expert in their own body and they know how they're feeling. So listening to them is really, really important. Open a conversation with some options that you can offer and give examples that maybe you've given to other colleagues. Not everybody knows what they need or is available. And if you don't know what is available, there are services like Durham Enable if you're Durham based. We can also help with advice like that. But if you're not Durham based, there are supported employment services around. Find your local one and I'm sure they can help you with the same. Prioritise equity over equality. There is no one size fits all. And when you're making adjustments, they need to be bespoke. Make sure the support stays consistent. Even if a person seems fine, keep checking in because needs can change over time. And it can be quite difficult to keep going and asking for help in that, you know, well, you've got your adjustments now and then, okay, well, suddenly this has changed and it's quite burdensome to go and ask, or well, actually, I need this now. And you can sort of start thinking in your head, well, I've been given these adjustments, I need to just sort of, you know, I should be grateful for that, etc. So if that support comes to you and people check in with you rather than you having to initiate that, that can be really helpful. And we're going to move on to Q&A in just a bit, but I wanted to leave you with this quote. I haven't put who quoted it because there's some dispute over that. A lot of people link it to Einstein, but there's some dispute over whether he actually said it or not. So that's not important. The quote is the important bit, which is everyone has genius within them. But if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life believing that it is stupid. And I just want to say thank you, everyone, for coming and listening to me and letting me be vulnerable and open with you. And now we're going to move on to the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Megan. Just thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm sure everyone will agree. It's so powerful hearing lived experiences. And I'm sure we can all take some learning from today's session. I know I certainly have. So huge well done, Megan. Yeah, really, really brave of you to speak about your own personal experiences like that. So well done. I would like to open the floor now to questions from attendees. So please pop your questions in the chat and I'll try and get around to you, or pop your hand up. Like I said, we've got about 10 minutes, so we'll hopefully get through a few. I'm going to start with the chat because there is a question in there. Oh, actually, it's just some wonderful feedback, Megan. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So powerful. There is a hand up though, so I'm going to go to, is it Laura?
It's Lauren.
Lauren, sorry, Lauren.
No problem. I answer to most things that begin with L, so that is not.
Jeez, apologies.
First of all, Megan, that was amazing. I've been listening with my partner, and both of us have actually been texting back and forth, being like,
Oh,
"Oh, how that worked." So thank you for that. My question was, if you're already in an existing job role and they're aware of disability diagnoses, what's the best way to actually prompt them into, hey, I need some adjustments?
yeah. So I definitely wouldn't recommend almost crashing and burning like I did. That's probably not the best time to go for that. If you're recognizing that you need some support, I definitely think it's best to go to sort of your line manager or your sort of next higher up. If that doesn't feel quite safe, maybe there's someone in HR, or if you've got like a humanities, depending on the size of the business kind of thing. But I'd advise sort of going to someone that you feel comfortable with, maybe doing a bit of research on your own about reasonable adjustments and things, and have a little think about, what could be helpful for you.
Yeah.
And there's loads and loads of resources online about examples of reasonable adjustments and what they look like for other people. So possibly I'd say go away, have a look at things that you think might be helpful, go to your line manager or whoever that comfortable person is and say, hey, I have these support needs. I feel like some of this would be helpful. Could we set up a meeting to have a chat about how you can best support me?
Um, Following on from that, I have had that chat with them, but it seems to have stalled. Is there anything that you could recommend as like an outside thing I could bring in and say, I've been speaking to this company, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so again, it depends where you're based and what that company has funding for.
Mhm.
So for us, we offer in-work support, and
Okay.
I know that we can sort of be that middleman for our job seekers. But if obviously that's not how you've entered that situation, it can be really, really difficult to sort of keep advocating for yourself. But I genuinely would recommend just keep going back and saying, hey, nothing's happened with XYZ, and I really need it to be able to keep going.
Okay.
I would also say look at maybe some disability or neurodivergence groups online, because that can give you a lot of peer support, etc. Even if it's just a message like, hi, I'm going to go chat to my manager for like the third time, I'm nervous but I need this done, can you all wish me luck or give me tips? That's a really great way to sort of build that community and just get that little boost that you might need to be able to go and do that.
Okay. Thank you so much for the advice.
No worries, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Carol?
It wasn't so much a question, it was just well done. Very informative, beautifully presented, and I'm in love with some of your graphics. The way that
Okay,
it all
I'll
flowed
let you
so
steal them all.
beautifully. Well, thank you. I was going to say that for Lauren, if she wants to reach out, we could be able to direct her to some resources that could support her depending upon the disability. So Lauren, if you pop some contact details, I can get back to you, okay?
Lauren, if you just email the address that's on the Durham Enable inbox, somebody will reach out to you. But our service manager has popped in some information in the chat as well, which you might find useful. So have a look in there as well. There is a question, Megan, in the Q&A section. So it's, have you found a way to overcome the imposter syndrome issue? This is something I have trouble with a great deal, and it can be paralyzing.
Yeah, no, first of all, I totally get it. It's really, really difficult, especially when you're feeling like not even yourself, not even a person, or that you're trying to present this version of yourself and people are just not vibing with you. Again, I think I would say reach out to those sort of communities, either the neurodiverse or disability, depending on what it is. Finding those sort of community supports online can be a really powerful way to connect with other people when you're feeling like people aren't understanding you. And I think it also within, whether it's within a workplace or outside of it, within the workplace, finding those sort of pockets of communities. I have to say I'm really lucky within Durham County Council that we have a disability network. So that's a place that we can all come and share our feelings about, when we're feeling low, when we're feeling imposter syndrome, when we're experiencing all of these things that other people don't understand. There's a lot of that community support. In terms of combating it in the moment when it happens, it's not a mental health issue, but I use my coping strategies in the same way I do with when my mental health flares up. So things like positive affirmations, or focused breathing, or even like distraction, things like that. Trying to get away from that negative cycle of I'm not worth it, I'm not worthy, people don't understand me, and you can sort of get into that pit. I would definitely try some mindfulness, some positive affirmations, and that kind of thing.
Thanks, Megan. Sandra, did you have a question?
Hiya, Megan. I honestly, I find that really interesting and powerful and brave what you've done. I understand where you're like coming from, because like I'm dyslexic and I really struggle at work. Nobody like ever says anything, but I always feel I'm the downfall on the team. And it does affect like my mental health, like terrible. I mean, I've been off on long-term sick and I've just come back. And because we've got such a lot of paperwork to do now, and I really like struggle with it. I've had an assessment done with Access to Work, and they did recommend like a software, which when the girl came out, she came out her assessors, I felt much better when she said, like, you're not stupid, because you do think like, oh well, I'm thick, I'm stupid, you do.
Why can't I just do these things?
Yeah, and I wasn't diagnosed as having dyslexia until I was like in my 30s as well. So, like, that I struggled at school, and like you're just known as like being the school dunce type of thing. You're not listening and you're not this, and so that affects you as well. But when she came out to her assessors and she suggested this software, and she said, when you're going out on your visits, you just like switch it on, you can get it on your phone, you can get it on your laptop, and it'll just dictate everything. And if it's long-winded, it'll summarize it down for you. And I just thought, oh my God, that would be amazing for me, because sometimes I'm nearly 60 and I'm going through the menopause now, so the brain fog effect. So before, like I could like try and memorize things. There was words that I couldn't really read, but I remembered it, so I would be able to say it, where now I just get all mixed up. And so that affects us as well. But she suggested this software and she said it will be really good for you. And I was thinking, oh, finally I'm going to like get some help and be able, because I just want to be able to do a good job like everybody else. But then when I got the report back from Access to Work, they were saying that, they couldn't award that, and that it would be this cheaper versions type. But she told me that one would be the best one. And I mean, I've emailed him and I've said, like, well, why get somebody to come out and assess and find out what you really need to be told, well, no, you're not getting that. So, you know, like my manager is going to look into it, but what I want to know is if like they're still saying no, is there anywhere else I can go to?
So thank you for sharing all of that firstly. And I totally appreciate where you're coming from, and I guarantee you that you're not I forget the phrasing you used, but the letdown on your team. You're not.
The
I'm sure you do.
The
Yeah.
downfall.
That was it. You're not. I guarantee you're not. It's tricky with access to work. I know that it's going through some changes at the moment, governmental wise, and what that means. So I can't really comment on that, but I know that there are a lot of changes going on at the moment. So it might be, unfortunately, quite a while until those kinds of things get sorted. However, I would definitely dispute that. If you need this specific software and the ones that they're recommending aren't providing what you're needing, and there's a reasonable reason for that, which there clearly is because it doesn't do the same thing, I would definitely dispute that with them, that you need this specific software. In terms of somewhere else you could go, firstly, I would have a chat with your line manager. I know you said he's already, or they're already looking into it.
Yeah.
But I would also chat to see if, you know, there might be some sort of internal funding for support. There might be, you know, they might have an offshoot of or like a charity or something that they link in with for supports. So that might exist. If there
Megan,
isn't,
excuse me 1 second. I'm sorry to interrupt.
no, please go ahead.
Sandra, are you in early help?
No, I'm in Families First team.
Was that count under children's social care?
Yeah.
Within Durham County Council, we have a neurodivergent network within children's social care. So we have a forum on the first Thursday of every month, and I offer some additional support for people and exactly with what you're talking about.
All right.
I'll try and, if you drop me an email, it's carol.williamson@durham.gov.uk. This is part of our internal arrangement within the council, specifically within children's social care. I should be able to help get this ironed out a little bit better for you, and also give you some more hints and tips and bits and pieces that we can help you feel more confident with what.
Oh, that would be great.
All sorts of other things that we can do in addition to expensive tech. What's right? What everything that Megan said is spot on. It's about finding the right resource for the way that you process information. So it's personal to you, and your assessor will have been accurate, and hopefully we can put some bits and pieces in place. That means, you know, to make this easier, it shouldn't be a big fight. If we can make it simple, then that's exactly what I want to do. I'm sorry for interrupting, Megan. I did a little bit of a check up on where you came from, Sandra, and thought, we're in the funding stream.
Yeah, Sandra Kitson or Durham. Yeah, right. Thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome.
Carol.
Sorry, Megan.
No, you're fine. No worries. Thank you. Thank you. So, yeah.
Sorry. Thank you for your question. And I hope you found that really helpful.
I did. Thank you very much.
Feel free to message Carol directly, or if you didn't quite catch our email address is on the screen here, so we will forward any, and that goes for anyone. If anyone wants any extra information, please just reach out and we'll make sure it gets to the relevant people who were in the call today. But yeah, thank you very much to everyone for joining. I hope you found it really useful.
Thank you very much.
That's lovely to hear.
Durham Enable, a brighter future for inclusive employment.